One of the newest organizations that the board has sponsored is the beginning of our attempt to understand, leverage, and become proficient in software development. And so we have a group of practitioners from software companies. You heard Rob this morning, and they are led by Stu Bailey from Infoblox. And I'm going to let him share the exciting agenda, including some new software sponsorship announcements, and then we'll close our time together today. Let's clip this on.
Yes, thanks very much. I want to talk a little bit about what the Software Leadership Council is, since that is a new organization, and in many ways we're also finding that out. But I think it's so exciting. In my opinion, this is a real commitment, proof point that the ONF is investing in where the market in SDN is going and what the ultimate consumers and constituencies are going to want. So who are we? Shadowy body of decision makers? No. I think that for many of you, these are well-known names in the OpenFlow and SDN communities, really around three areas of expertise. One is community building, and I want to point to Jono Bacon, who is actually the person, does anybody know who that is? Okay, Rick does and Jean does. Jono built the community for Ubuntu Linux. So I think you'll be hearing more about him and from him from the ONF. I think it's just a huge win for the ONF to get someone of his expertise around the idea of community building. So that's a big deal. And did anybody see the Flowgrammable demo at all? Anybody see that? Jason Casey? I was just blown away by that. He's our newest member of the Software Leadership Council and really is here to help bring an expertise for education, which I think is absolutely critical for going forward. And then in the middle are the names many of you know that have an undisputed record for creating real, tangible software artifacts in the SDN community. That includes Rob Sherwood, who is the vice chair, Dan Taleko from Big Switch, both of them in a long time, Carl Moberg from TailF/Cisco, and of course Ben Pfaff, who, if you don't know, is one of the most hands-on people in terms of implementing OpenFlow from a software perspective. And I want to also say Saurav Das, who represents an important commitment from the ONF. He's a full-time ONF employee responsible to ushering in real software artifacts from an ONF perspective. So I think that's just a tremendous commitment that the board is demonstrating to the organization. What's my role? I'm an enabler, a facilitator, get out of these experts' way so they can help this organization move forward and help them get their job done, be a spokesperson if necessary, but really to let this tremendously talented group shine. I'm very, very excited to work for them. What are we going to do? That's always the question. This is really the charter that was asked of us by the ONF board and leadership, which is help the ONF get their hands dirty with real software. And there's a lot of concerns about that because, well, what if it's software nobody uses? We've done that before, right? What if it's software that's not important? We've done that before. What if it's just, software that's extremely important, everyone should use, but no one knows about it, right? That's a problem. So in order to address the idea of getting our hands dirty with real software, we also have to really build that around three pillars of community, making people aware and bringing people into those software ecosystems, and leveraging the important communities that are already there, like in Open Daylight and the ONOS community that are building, the real software itself, that there are meaningful artifacts that will make a difference in the SDN community, and education. Continuing to bring in a broad array of people in terms of the capabilities of SDN. Because I think we can all agree here that the number of people who know what an impact SDN could have is still relatively small from the number of people who should know what an impact that SDN could have on the world. So we're at very early days still. And this is kind of our mission going forward. The concrete touch points, and I'll just touch on a couple of these each. First is a website, a community. I shouldn't say, see, Jonah would be up here telling me that I'm already fired. I'm not allowed to say website. Community. A community to help really drive this forward. And next week, we're launching open source SDN. So many of the things, the details that are in your mind today, both the hopeful details and the cynical details, hopefully will start to materialize there very, very quickly. And I really encourage you to rally there in terms of moving the organization in this direction. It will have various resources and real tangible software and real community. Again, this is all of our thing. We have an opportunity here. When you have someone like Jonah who's really saying this is what you need to build a community, we need to listen to him, but all of us here have to participate and make that a meaningful investment. And I really, really believe with your support, your help, reaching out, sending the links out, getting people rallied around, this can be one of the most meaningful investments the ONF has made in recent times. I really believe that. But it really requires your support. The next is the ONF's commitment to support real software artifacts. So the SLC is not the governing body of that. Dan still is. So just to be clear, we are been tasked by the ONF leadership, the board, to evaluate various projects with real software artifacts that the ONF can get deeply involved in, sometimes financially, sometimes from a community perspective, sometimes from a grassroots perspective. And we have, I think, hopefully a reasonable advisory role in that. We're certainly, the buck does not stop here, so I want to be clear about that. But I do want to share with you a couple of projects that right away, and this we've both recommended and the ONF is taking concrete steps forward on in terms of real software artifact creation. The first is, after absolutely phenomenal work by the NBI Working Group and Dave Lenrow, wherever you are here, we've recommended and the ONF has agreed to spend real resources, real dollars on creating an open intent engine that, as you can see on this picture, and I would direct you to Dave for the details, really embraces the two kind of leading controller communities, both Open Daylight and ONOS. The specific work item in the short term will be focused on Open Daylight. That's where this work is coming out of. So again, a good proof point of the kind of vendor neutrality and the community focus of the ONF. Very, very excited about that. Number two is a project called Anchor Stack, which you should be hearing more about on OpenSDN and also from Yatish and Sarav, which is really an exercise in packaging. If you think about the success of Linux, many of you remember Slackware, Debian, Ubuntu. The distribution aspect is an absolutely critical aspect to getting important low-level software and capabilities to a broader community market. And so to kind of get our hands very dirty around that in a positive way, Anchor Stack is an attempt to really say, how do we put together a distribution stack? As you can see in this slide, there's no intent on being favored to any one controller or the next, any one data plane or the next, but some choices will be made in the short term just to get some concrete things. In this case, it appears to be ONOS. So that's very exciting, but again, in both projects, this is about broad acceptance and integrating the very, up-and-coming, because I wouldn't say any SDN community is mature today, but some of the up-and-coming or leading open source SDN communities. And again, around education, I think we're going to embrace efforts, specific efforts, flowgrammable.org. I wish I could have taped to you like Ben Fast's reaction to flowgrammable. And I think he said very concretely like, boy, I really wish this should be the spec, right? I wish we had this in so many spec writing discussions, because you really have a visual way, some pipelining way, some simulation way to reason about semantics, about how things go together, and I think that's really just the tip of the iceberg. You know, these kinds of tools are what the community of app developers, at a very least, will need to be able to debug and be able to deploy their applications at a continuous basis. So, you know, again, this is just, all of these are just examples, just concrete steps forward in what I think is a pretty transforming commitment by the ONF. So these are all the things I basically said. I won't read them out. But the basic message is this effort of the ONF to take concrete and measurable steps toward embracing a rich software community with real software artifacts really, really needs all of your support. This is for us and for the whole community. And I hope that, you know, you are many of you are not bashful at all. I would hope for you to continue to provide all the feedback that you can in this process, and we're really striving. I think the folks on the SLC are demand and push for as much possible transparency as we can possibly get. And so if you have questions, if you have ideas, don't hesitate to reach out to me or any of the other members, or Dan or Rick, around any of these things. So please participate. Thank you.